Hey Weather Warriors, in this video I'm talking about the potential increasing severe weather threat across the central and eastern United States as we head towards the weekend here. I'm also going to talk about the powerful storm system that's going to be impacting most of the east half of the United States in the second half of the video. But first we're going to look at the severe weather potential here. I'm going to track this day by day. We're at pivotalweather.com. This is a great website if you're a weather enthusiast and want to follow along with me and look at the models and maps. We're going to first look at the relative vorticity, and this is for Sunday at 7 p.m. when I think this threat is going to be the highest. It's going to be Sunday afternoon, and it's probably going to line up somewhere here in the south central United States in the plains. That will move to the east, and we'll go over that in a second. But right now, we're looking at Sunday, and what is this? What in the world is this relative vorticity thing? Well, we got a little trough here, a little short wave. And that's delivering a bunch of energy. You can think of this as kind of lift. This is vorticity. This is spin in the atmosphere in the upper levels. That's going to lift air at the surface and help support a strong storm system. And you got plenty of this out here. It's going to happen near and just ahead of your positive vorticity advection. And so you should see a good storm just out ahead of that. And that's definitely what we see. Now, if you look at the upper levels here, this is the trough that's coming through, and you can see the winds are just blasting up in the atmosphere. And what does this mean? Well, you got winds at 70, 80, 90, maybe even close to 100 miles an hour at 500 millibars. Pretty impressive, especially in that area. What does that do to the atmosphere? Well, where there's areas of divergence, it's going to stretch out the air in the upper levels, and that's going to pull air up to replace it from the surface, which is going to create tremendous lift in this area for a powerful storm system. This is going to impact everyone really on the east half of the United States, but this is great for severe weather. And you got this also separates when you have a thunderstorm, you get an updraft. This blows the precipitation away from the updraft so it can keep building. So you can get, very strong storms because of that. So that actually helps that out as well. Now, there's going to be a wild card factor here that's going to boom or bust this scenario. Will it be a tornado outbreak, full-scale severe weather outbreak, or will it just be kind of an isolated event? Either way, that looks like there's going to be severe weather, but this is the moisture here. Look at the moisture up here. Now, with these types of outbreaks, definitely going to want 60-plus dews. And even more than that. And you can see the 60-plus dews are all the way down here. So the moisture is marginal up here. In fact, it's actually pretty weak. It definitely could be enough in some areas, but your best moisture is going to be near the 60 dew line in point south. Now, why is that happening? If you look at the trends, the model trends here, you can see that these are the past several runs for the same time at Sunday at 7 p.m. You can see it's kind of weakening the past few runs, but it's generally been in the same area. And you can see your low pressure system is right here. Okay, your severe weather is going to be out near ahead of it along the cold front. Okay, this is where your severe weather is going to fire. That cold front's going to shove up storms into the atmosphere. Plenty of moisture coming out here from the Gulf, but how far north does it get? So the big question is, can it go crazy up there? Now, when you get up towards the low pressure, there's a lot of circulation. There's a lot of spin in the atmosphere with the wind fields. You get southeast winds at the surface. Then you got winds coming up like this at the 500 millibars of the jet stream. So you got wind shear there, and you get that kind of that hatching pattern with the winds. And that can really enhance the tornado potential supercells up in that region. The problem is, will the moisture get up there in time? Now, let's look at the map here. What I'm going to do is show you a potential problem here and why this is happening. We're going to put on this loop here. And, if you go back a little bit, there was a very strong cold front that swept into the Gulf. Okay, we're going to keep that around there. And that was like, Tuesday through Thursday. And you can see the winds are out of the north at the Gulf. The Gulf is where all your moisture typically is going to occur for your severe weather events. You'll get moisture out here from Baja, but that's for usually winter storms and rain and stuff like that, elevated moisture. But for severe weather, you want moisture coming out from the Gulf, and the winds are out of the north here on the Gulf Tuesday and Thursday, midweek, even through late week. The Gulf is shut down right now. Okay, there's a road closed sign you can imagine right along the Gulf, and that's trapping moisture. Typically, with severe weather setups, you want at least 3 to 5 days of moisture coming out of the Gulf from the south, that will move up into the U.S. to supply these severe storms. It's Thursday, and we're talking about Sunday when this event occurs. And, this is Friday, and there's still really not a whole lot of moisture. There's a little bit of moisture sneaking up from the southwestern United States with a little system that moves through. This is Saturday, and you can see the moisture is still mostly to the south. These are your wind barbs. Okay, when they're flags like this, that means it's moving, from the south. When it's kind of like this, it's moving from the north, and you can see they finally are starting to switch as we get towards Saturday. So this is very late in the day on Saturday. Now, as we go towards Sunday, here's our latest event. Here's your low pressure system, your cold front right there. Your warm front going to be kind of, maybe up in this region, and the moisture does come up far enough to hit Texas and Oklahoma, maybe Kansas, but not quite Iowa, Nebraska, and Missouri. So that's going to be the question. How far north can this go? Because if this moisture, if these 60 dews can hit this prime zone right here where I talked about that wind shear, this wind shear is phenomenal up in this region. If that moisture can go up there, you're going to talk about tornadoes that are going to fly across Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, and Iowa as we head towards Sunday. The issue is, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the cold front is going to shunt the show to the south. The area down here is less favorable, wind shear wise, but there is enough wind shear and there is enough moisture that I do think you'll see isolated tornadoes in Oklahoma and Texas potentially. But again, this area up here is an absolute ticking time bomb if there's moisture. But again, it does not look to be the case, and the trends are going down. Either way, isolated thunderstorms up in this region for late October. That's pretty impressive. You got plenty of moisture. There's going to be rain and potentially some cold rain, isolated areas of snow back here in Wyoming and Colorado. Now let's look at the moisture or the instability. This is measuring kind of the lift for the thunderstorms in the atmosphere. If you have colder air aloft and warmer at the surface, well, the warm air is going to rise. That's going to help lift the thunderstorms. So we're going to zoom into this region here. Okay, and we're going to go out to Sunday. I believe that was Sunday at 7 p.m. that we were looking at here. And let's pull this out, and you can see what I'm talking about here. The instability is going to kind of follow the moisture. Okay, if you don't have much moisture, probably not going to have much instability either. And typically with severe weather, you want about 750 to 1,000 for severe weather. And really over here, anywhere north of those 60 dews, you can really see how that instability is completely shut off. You're talking only about 100 to maybe 500 in some areas. And I do think 500 will yield maybe an isolated severe storm or two in this region in the red. But again, you're going to want dew points to be about 10 degrees higher, 5 to 10 degrees higher. But as you can see, where those 60 dews occur, you get the instability about 1 to 2,000 down there, which is, just enough and more than enough for severe weather. And we'll go farther south. So you're talking eastern Oklahoma and eastern Texas. We'll go even further south, see how far south that goes. That goes all the way down to the Gulf. So this area where this is lit up, severe weather is possible. The other issue, though, is you have to have these 500 millibar winds to line up with the instability. So you're lifting the atmosphere. Your jet stream's got to be crossing it. And you can see that it's a lot weaker down here. Still strong enough, but your best lift and your best wind shear are going to be up here where that jet stream's at, and that's in eastern Oklahoma, probably southeast Kansas, and northeast Texas. That's where your prime zone, I believe, is going to be. And we'll throw in western Arkansas. I think that's where your prime zone is going to be on Monday. There's a bit of an east trend, too, as well. So I think, if I were to draw this out, this is where your best threat is going to occur for severe weather, isolated tornadoes, hail, wind, especially where those X's are, on Sunday afternoon. We'll look at the other days in a second here. We're going to look at that moisture real quick. Well, actually, let's look at the supercell composite. So this is measuring supercells. Supercells are typically going to carry large hail, damaging winds, and sometimes tornadoes. And you can see that supercell composite 10 to 12 here. Okay, and then much elevated everywhere else. But like I said, I think your best threat's going to be kind of in this area right here. And, obviously this is at 7 p.m. That'll advance eastward. But, more than enough. All you really need is about a 1 or 2 to even have a slight threat. We'll look at the tornado. We don't have the tornado parameter on the GFS, but we have the Energy Helicity Index, which is close enough for now. And that's measuring instability and wind shear, combining them. When you have a lot of both, for simple terms, the tornado threat can increase. All you really need is a 1 or more, and you can see it is at a 4, 5, 6, 7. So a moderate chance for some tornadoes in that area, I would say, looking at this. We'll look at the sounding real quick, because that is a pretty good looking area. You can see the sounding indicates this is a vertical profile in the atmosphere. So this is the surface down here. Whoops, down here. This is way up high, kind of near the jet stream. And this is for one location. You can see this is indicating a marginal tornado threat. So, some isolated tornadoes certainly possible. And you can see that wind I was talking about. See how the wind is out of the southeast at surface, and then you go up to the jet stream, and it's out of the southwest at darn near 100 miles an hour. That's going to create a lot of turning in the atmosphere and directional shear for potentially supercells and a couple of isolated tornadoes. Again, the issue, the instability, kind of weak. And, will you get storms to fire in a supercellular fashion? Will they fire at the right time? There's some questions there. And then we'll look at the moisture real quick, and I'll show you where that front is. This is kind of a zoomed in view of that front. And you can see your front is kind of right here. And, you're going to get storms right out ahead of it. So I think that's where your best bet is going to be on Sunday. So I think we looked at Sunday in pretty good detail. Here's the composite reflectivity. You can see the model is indicating storms that will fire as far south as maybe like Dallas or so, and then going up into Kansas. Isolated severe weather obviously possible. Let's take a zoomed out view here and look at the rest of the setup for the next couple of days after it. Well, let's look at the precipitation rate, and you can see that's that storm I'm talking about, a really powerful storm. The low pressure system's at a 989, but this will blow up as it moves into the Midwest. You got a pretty good setup here. Thunderstorms out ahead of it, lots of rain behind it, and you got very good circulation here. Probably going to be some snow up here in the Rockies as well. A couple of days ago, it looked like maybe western Nebraska. That's still in question. But I think your best bet for snow is going to be out in Colorado and Wyoming. So this is Sunday at 7 p.m. Well, let's advance this forward. We'll look at the moisture real quick so we can see if there's... Actually, how about let's look at the instability just to see if there's severe weather potential as it moves east. So surface-based instability. We're going to turn on the loop here, and we're going to go past Sunday. So this is... we'll go back to Sunday here at... that's Tuesday. Sunday at 7 p.m. right there. And then we'll go into the overnight hours, and you can see that plume of moisture or instability and moisture moves to the east. So isolated thunderstorms potentially possible all the way up to Wisconsin. You can see about 500 Cape. That's going to be enough for, general thunderstorms. Probably not severe, but maybe an isolated severe storm somewhere along there. And then obviously severe weather in Texas potentially. And then we go to Tuesday at 7 p.m. and you can see that moisture and instability really just decreases. Maybe some in Florida actually on Tuesday. But you can see that front, you can kind of see the indication of that front, but there's just not a whole lot of instability for the East Coast. Maybe some isolated thunderstorms, but the instability just kind of gets scoured out. Now again, if that cold front didn't move through midweek, might be looking at a completely different story for much of the east half of the United States. So I thought this would be a cool case study to look at this. And then we're going to fast forward the moisture, and you can see what happens here on Monday at around 1 p.m. There is 60 dews here, but there might be mid-levels might be not as good. But I think if you're for temperatures, it might be a little bit. Yeah, you get 60s here, so I would not be surprised to see some thunderstorms in that area. I don't think this model has most unstable Cape, but that's something we would look into maybe as we head towards the weekend. I might do a live stream, but I definitely keep this area under watch for at least thunderstorms, maybe some isolated severe pockets in there where that moisture is reaching north. But that's Monday around 1 p.m. And then as you can see, that front blows through. Your moisture does get all the way up to Canada. So there could be some pretty copious amounts of rain and isolated thunderstorms, maybe up to Maine, as we head towards Tuesday at 1 p.m. And then that just completely scours out. And look at that next week, maybe another setup for the plains as well as we head towards Thursday the 24th. So pretty nuts there. Now, what was I going to look at? The precipitation. We'll look at the precipitation, see how that moves through. And here's Sunday at 1 p.m. And that's overnight. And you can see that low pressure system really gets cranking. I mean, let's go back to that. And you can see that low pressure system starts to cranking. You know, just get that wrapping and that comma head appearance. The European computer model has been even stronger. And there you go. It's the 986. I think that goes down even lower. But your cold front right here, it's like a tail, and that's going to just smack the East Coast. And then obviously plenty of moisture for southeastern parts of Canada and then some wraparound rain. And the question is, will we get snow? This is the 540 line right here. And you can see that's kind of the indicative line for rain to snow. And you can see it creeps in. The question is, will it creep in enough? Let me get rid of some of that drawing there. And you can see that kind of pierces through the precipitation. So if this system can maybe go down a little bit lower, like a 980 or something or lower, you might be able to get enough cold air to kind of wrap into it dynamically and create some snow for northeast Minnesota and the far northern parts of Wisconsin. Very uncertain at the moment, but maybe some wet snow mixed in near the Canadian border. And then obviously lots of rain out ahead of it. The main show is going to be up in Canada for this storm in general. But either way, the signs that these things keep blowing up. There's one on the East Coast earlier this week. You got this one. All those storms out that track through the northern U.S. Then you got another one coming up later. This is all indicating of an extremely active pattern for the east half of the United States and the north third or so. And that could track into the winter. And this is a pattern we might see in the winter. And you can see this is Tuesday at 7 p.m. This advances into the northeast, east coast on Tuesday. Excuse me, that was Monday at 7 p.m. So this is tracking into the east coast on Tuesday around the morning to afternoon and evening. And you can see, look at that moisture, just tails of moisture getting scooped into this thing. This thing is a huge system, okay? The European computer model has been even crazier with this. It actually puts in the 960s and 70s. Probably some decent wet snow on the backside, but this is a massive system. We'll have to have a live stream on this thing showing the radar because it's going to be a big one. And look at that. I mean, that's the size of, that's almost the size of like half the U.S. Look at the moisture go all the way down here, and then it sweeps out on the backside. This is a giant storm. And again, if the moisture wasn't scoured earlier this week, we'd be talking about some serious rain. Either way, there's going to be some good rain with this thing. And then as we head towards next week, another big storm that goes up the central and east half of the United States around, what is that, Friday, Saturday? So I might have to make another video on that. And then it's very cold behind it. So let's look at those rainfall rates real quick as that thing scoops over. And let's go 48 hours. And we'll look at Sunday or Tuesday or so. You can see the precipitation out in the northern plains in the central U.S. Generally, here it is, about 1 to 2 inches of precip for the Dakotas, Minnesota, out into Wisconsin. More like a ½ inch to an inch and a half, but some areas in the 2-inch range. I'd actually maybe be a little bit higher down here. And then obviously areas we get thunderstorms, there's going to be locally higher amounts where you have like a ½ inch to an inch or more. And then as this tracks into the East Coast, you can see a good swath of about a ½ inch to 2 inches. Some areas, maybe in Maine, 3 inches indicating. And then obviously the northern parts of the Midwest towards the lakes into Canada, a good broad area, 1 to 2 inches of liquid. So this is precipitation. We'll look at the snowfall for the heck of it. And we'll just do total snow accumulation for the entire period. I want to say that's the storm up there in Canada. And you can see there's really no snow anywhere in the U.S. that's forecasted by this model run. Obviously, this can change. But you can see for Canada, that would just stay there, plenty of snow up there in Canada. I want to make sure that's the right storm. I mean, you got a couple feet in with that thing. So let's see if that's a different one. Yeah, that's that same storm. So it's actually indicating a couple of feet for parts of Canada. So another big old storm, and just wait till these things start to track to the south. So it'd be a very interesting winter here. So with that said, I think that will be wrapping up the potential for severe weather for this weekend. They'll be wrapping up this video. If you like these types of videos, hit that subscribe button. We'll be releasing more updates, and we'll also be going live from time to time, so hit those bell notifications. And also comment below, what's the craziest weather event you've ever been through? I think what I'm going to do is make some past historic breakdowns on this channel. We'll make some videos about crazy events, stuff you want me to cover. Maybe you didn't go through it. Maybe just something you want me to cover. And we'll make some shows over past historic events, some crazy weather events. Maybe it's just a drought. I don't care. Just something that you think would be cool to talk about. Comment that below. So hope everyone has a great week, great weekend, and stay safe out there. And hit that subscribe button, smash that thumbs up button. And hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you soon.